Welcome to the session on Abnormal Psychology, Module 2, Session 11. A quick recap. In the previous session, we discussed about psychosexual stages of development. The five stages are oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency stage, and genital stage. In this session, we will understand ego defense mechanism, its impact, and several criticisms on it. First of all, we will start off with understanding what are defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms are psychological strategies that are unconsciously used to protect a person from anxiety arising from unacceptable thoughts or feelings. We use defense mechanisms to protect ourselves from feelings of anxiety or guilt which arise because we feel threatened or because our id or superego becomes too demanding. From the table, we can see several defense mechanisms and examples. We will talk about it or discuss one after the other. Firstly, denial. Denial here refers to the refusal to recognize or acknowledge a threatening situation. An example could be Ben is an alcoholic who denies being an alcoholic. Repression. Repression means pushing threatening or conflicting events or situations out of conscious memory. Elise, who was sexually abused as a child, cannot remember the abuse at all. This is a great example as Elise has pushed the threatening thought out of her conscious memory. Third one is rationalization, making up unacceptable excuses for unacceptable behavior. An example could be if I don't have breakfast, I can have that piece of cake later on without hurting my diet. Though eating a piece of cake later is unacceptable behavior while being on diet, yet compensating that with not having breakfast is a good example of rationalization, a defense mechanism. Another defense mechanism is projection. It is placing one's own unacceptable thoughts onto others as if the thoughts belong to them and not to oneself. An example here is Kesha is attracted to her sister's husband but denies this and believes that the husband is attracted to her. Here, simply, Kesha is projecting her own feelings as it belongs to the other person. Another defense mechanism is reaction formation. It is forming an emotional reaction or attitude that is opposite of one's threatening or unacceptable actual thoughts. Example: Matt is unconsciously attracted to Ben but outwardly voices an extreme hatred of homosexuals. Displacement is another defense mechanism. It involves expressing feelings that would be threatening if directed at the real target onto a less threatening substitute target. An example here is Sandra gets reprimanded by her boss and goes home to angrily pick up a fight with her husband. So Sandra is simply directing her anger towards a less threatening substitute, that is husband, instead of the boss. Regression. Regression is falling back on childlike patterns as a way of coping with stressful situations. 4-year-old Jeff starts wetting his bed after his parents bring home a new baby. Identification. Trying to become like someone else to deal with one's anxiety. Example: Mary really admires Susie, the most popular girl in school, and tries to copy her behavior and dress. Compensation or substitution is another defense mechanism wherein a person tries to make up for areas in which a lack is perceived by becoming superior in some other area. Riggy is not good at athletics, so he puts all of his energies into becoming an academic scholar. And lastly, the defense mechanism here is sublimation. It is turning socially unacceptable urges into socially acceptable behavior. Alain, who is very aggressive, becomes a professional hockey player. So, these are several defense mechanisms that people generally use to avoid conflicting thoughts or anxiety. Now, we will discuss the impact and criticisms. Psychoanalytic model contains many ideas about human development, psychopathology, and treatment. The events they hypothesize are not directly observable and are hard to evaluate objectively. Psychoanalytic concepts are difficult to prove experimentally. Freud's basic concepts, id and its powerful drive, seem to be problematic. Psychoanalysis is a therapy for maladaptive behavior has been objectively assessed in scientific method. Finally, summarizing the session, the ego we discussed according to Freud, the ego feels it may be unable to control impulses from id. It experiences anxiety, and to reduce such feelings of anxiety, ego uses various defense mechanisms. Psychoanalysis models focused on human behavior can be studied scientifically and can be used in therapeutic method. Here are some references that can be used to explore the concepts further. Thank you.